Welcome to Dojo Chat. I am here with Guru Roger Agbulos. How are you today, sir?
Pretty good. Thank you very much for having me in the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being a guest. We're both on the West Coast. You're down in LA, correct?
Correct. Same time zone, for sure.
Same time zone, just thousands of miles away. I don't know how many miles it is from me to you. I think it's probably about 1,000, maybe. So I think it's like 700 to San Francisco.
That's going to be probably a full 24-hour drive, maybe.
Yeah.
From Los Angeles to your place.
Yeah. So how long have you been studying martial arts?
Well, officially, we grew up with a few, a few sessions here and all the stuff as kids. So I don't count that.
Yeah.
But officially in a particular style, I started 1990 with the late Punong Guru Edgar Solite way back that year, 1990. And I continued without changing, without hopping, without being, going through whatever is the mainstream, because then it became UFC. So it was jiu-jitsu at that time, the early mid 90s that it became strong because they were kicking ass, all the other styles. So everybody's jumping to the bandwagon of jiu-jitsu. I never did. I tried. I, in fact, had the opportunity to meet some real hotshot masters of jiu-jitsu, and I even took some classes. But I stuck on with Filipino martial arts under the tutelage of Punong Guru Edgar Solite, called Lameco Eskrima. So when did I start? 1990 officially, and even until his passing, I still continued on his legacy by kind of representing him with my own twist. That's why it's now called Lameco Asti. So there you go.
Right on. Yeah, that actually 1990. That's when I started training. So it's been 30 years. That's yes. A long time in the arts. So yeah. Now for me, I didn't start until I was 18 because my parents thought I'd hurt myself. But I don't know how old. I mean, how old were you when you started?
Well, that's going to be confidential.
Okay.
Then people start counting the years and all that stuff. So
yeah.
But it's not really a big secret. But we'll go along. I'll tell you how old I am. But okay. I am into this bliss of doing martial arts out of passion and bliss. So when people say I'm already old, I can't do this and all this stuff, I beg to differ. Yeah. It doesn't mean that I'm competing in the Olympics level, or depending on the activity that you chose to practice. Obviously, there are a lot of those that you cannot perform anymore. Even right. In the martial arts aspect, example, as like Hapkido or Taekwondo, roundhouse kick 10 feet high, it's something that it's eons away from our age level. Even jiu-jitsu. If you start late jiu-jitsu, your muscles is no longer built in what is required in the physical stress of the activity. That's why a lot of the adults, we're not talking about 30, 40 years old. We're talking about even 25. You see, you have to start young for the conditioning of your body for such an activity. So, but the martial arts in general, specifically Filipino martial arts, it's not as strenuous as required by the other martial arts. So I don't really believe in it's too late. It's no, but maybe you should be specific in your choice of the martial arts practice. Like if you're talking about then self-defense, everybody can go and learn self-defense regardless right. of age, size, gender, whatever, but just focus on whatever it is functional, right? Pragmatic and all that stuff, and it's not difficult. So that should be the basis of your selection of a particular style or a set of techniques that one can perform regardless of all those factors. So
Right. Yeah, I don't know. There's like for me, I started in Taekwondo. A couple years later, I was introduced to Kempo and pressure points, and that's kind of where I've focused from there. Through that, I was introduced to modernists, from Remy Prisus. Did a little bit of it, but I really didn't start studying any stick stuff until late 2000s. So, and then that's kind of where I got in. That's where I met Dan Anderson, and he introduced me to Bram Frank, and then I kind of put down the stick and picked up a knife, and
sure,
that's kind of where it's been ever since then.
Evolution, right? So
yeah,
beautiful. One thing leads to another, but it's all a part of the beautiful journey.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what
and for me, I've still stuck with my Kempo. It's just something that calls to me. But then I think the knife and even stick arts, they totally complement. They complement each other.
Yes, obviously.
So
yeah.
So
well, to me, the stick is an instrument of what is supposed to be represented in the real world, which is sword blades or machete, bolo, long sword, small sword, Zanzibar, whatever. It's the stick is being used as a training tool, but not necessarily as a weapon, which could be. But if given a choice to me in my mindset, if given a choice that somebody say, for example, if it's just put the gun aside, right? Because we're not in that arena. So
right.
if somebody goes for a home invasion or something, wants to steal it from you, and for the very minimum of the bad guy, he definitely or they would definitely carry a blade, knife and I think the instinct there is that for the homeowner, trained or untrained, I think, again, putting the gun aside, is that they'll get a blade, not a stick, because the stick really is a training tool which was really popularly used by the Filipino martial arts. And we're talking about rattan, because rattan has this element that it's pliant, it can take vibration. So it is a training tool because it can take force on force without breaking early on. Example, if you use kamagong, an iron wood in the Philippines, as much as it's tough and can break a head, can break the skull, coconut. But if you do that 2 or 3, it's brittle. It'll break. It will explode. It will not.
Right.
Expression, but it will break, but not the rattan. But for us to think the rattan is more of really a weapon, it's a training tool. So our practice should be, my version is that to respect the rattan as a representation of what could be the real weapon. Example, it's machete based, it's sword, bolo, what have you. So we should put that in mind, and it will definitely change in the manner of our training, because you are what the expression, you are what you eat. Garbage in, garbage out. So you're right. So you want to be eloquent, articulate, proficient, you got to go with the right habits, because it will change and mold to the behavior that you are doing in your repetition of your practice. So if you look at it as a stick, and then when you train for like thousands of times of repetition, because that's what you call internalization, and that's what it is with any physical activity, even music, much more sports, soccer, basketball, much more martial arts. So you practice that as a stick, because you're thinking of that as a stick. And when it comes about, even on a spar, when you say that this spar is supposed to be based on a sword, so you can't be hitting each other, because in reality you would end up 6 feet below the ground, both of you. So the
Right.
practice meaning of that sport, if it's well defined, is that it is sword based. So you are careful not to hold the stick or what. So you are into the intersection and hit pop pop in the critical targets, and that would have finished the that would have ended up with a good job in a real situation. So those are sometimes some of the rules that's used in certain sparring aspect or in certain backyard style, depending on how you see the stick is. But if some particular club or group chose that as a stick, then you would see a difference, definitely a different behavior in the manner of their fighting, which is not self-defense slash combative aspect, but it's in the sports aspect. And let me explain that. So when it
Okay.
is a stick, then they will hit each other as much as they can, and it's point system. Or they will use that and then they go grappling. That's fine if that is what you want to go. But if you ask the guys, how are you exactly, what is the purpose of your martial arts? And then if the 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 would say it is combative, understanding of combative in self-defense, then it defeats the purpose. So there has to be a clear understanding as to, but who am I to impose what I think, But what's important is that you define your own bliss, your journey.
Hmm.
But I'm kind of very technical with a strict compliance of these elements of street-based practical application, because I chose the combative aspect of it, not the sports. When you hit each other and all that stuff, it defeats purpose, because I don't want it messing with my muscle memory. And in the repetition of what I do for 1,000, 10,000 times, I don't want it to be internalized with that, if I may, I call carelessness, because I will end up 6 feet below the ground if I look at it on the standpoint as a stick. So, but then again, that's my point of view. So,
Well, I don't think you're alone. I mean, like doing blade art with a stick, there's a lot of arts that will do, disarms, or even like modern artists, a traditional disarm number one, the person comes in and you stop the stick and then you grab the stick and then you peel it out. It's like, if you're training that way and you're grabbing the other person's stick, that's, in real, if we're just basically using it as a training tool, that in real it's going to be a machete or a bolo. We're training ourselves to grab onto the other person's blade, and then we end up getting cut ourselves. And so, when I started training with Bram, it was one of those where I didn't want to put away the stick. I like the stick, but I had to look at it from, just like you were saying, that it's a training tool. Yeah. Because I don't look at stuff from a sport aspect. I look at it as self-defense, on the street, real, you learn it to save your butt and go home in one piece at the end of the day. But, so it's basically, keeping that concept that, okay, we can still do stick stuff. And honestly, I'll be honest, we've talked on the phone a couple times, but I've actually never seen you move. So, fair
enough. Very good.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the most honest questions ever.
Yeah.
But I take that also upon me asking the same questions with everybody else, because if I may, what I do is no secret. Meaning, I don't really broadcast myself with every move, and then Facebook and what have you and all that stuff, social media, with everything that I do. I've been doing Zoom class every Saturday, every weekend, sometimes one, sometimes multiple times a week. But I've been doing this since March of last year. But how many
Mhm.
people know? Well, it's probably within the circle in Facebook when they say, when people kind of complimented of what I did in this last session. But I've been doing it since last March, so I'm not into the mass publicity because it's I'm happy with what I've been doing, but maybe I should do a better job. So that's why this kind of like podcast and this thing. I thank you. Yeah, it
Yeah.
brings me joy to have this opportunity to kind of explain my side of my being crazy about what I do. Right. So thank you, Mish. But that's an honest, fair question because I do ask the same thing of the others, my peers, or even the the guys above me, because we have into this you know technology of recording way back since what 30, 40 plus years ago, and
Right.
we still haven't seen, including yourself, the same thing of you to me, of how people move. But you know what, the essence of martial arts to me is I am with you in this. It is in the movement. It is, I don't care what people say because there's thousands if not millions of books written about martial arts, the science of it, the movement, the culture, psychology, the philosophy, the the lineage, the honor system, etc., etc., etc. It's the functional aspect, and in science, the plyometrics, and so many things to talk about martial arts. So it's all out there, including videos. If you check the video, YouTube, there is so many things that you can already learn from if you look at it, well, depending on your objective, right? Entertainment or educational or practical approach or adaptation and opening your minds. There's so much information out there that we even in fact ourselves take for granted. But the thing is, go back to your question, I do ask the same thing. How can I see the beauty of somebody's philosophy if I don't see the movement? Because I will retain and remain always a student. But then I don't see a lot of the guys claiming with the title master, and they will justify that. It wasn't, I didn't claim, it was granted to me by my students or granted to me by my peers or my whatever. But with that rank carries a responsibility. That responsibility is the functional approach of martial arts because you carry that. It was your choice to have that in your title. So for people not to see how you move, and this is how I gauge that the movement and the practical application should be tested in between two non between two combatants, and being exposed to spontaneous decision making because they're sparring under duress, under pressure, under test. And I'm not talking about specifically about killing each other. I'm not talking, no, even sparring, because that is the closest you can be at with how good you are when you are against two combatants non-compliant with each other. Because if you're talking about feed me here and I'll do this and I'll choke you here and that's feeding, that's compliant,
Right.
but that's one aspect of training. But there's the other aspect of training, which is sparring. And sparring is between non-compliant combatants. Not feeding, I feed you this and this. This is spontaneous decision making under duress. And exactly, I ask the same questions of the others. Not that I'm competing with them. I can beat your ass. Sorry, can I say that?
Yeah. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
If I can beat you, you know, I want to see you move. Not in that aspect, but rather, how do you move? Because I am a student right now, and I am intrigued by your philosophy, right? And there's none, and that's the problem with mostly FMA, because mostly people would say tribalism and all this stuff. It's a secret, and then we can't. But that's the problem why FMA never seem to be in some respect, in some respect, not respected by the other systems, because there is the lack of application-based footages that we can learn from each other. It's all about I'm secret this, I'm secret that, but I can do this, I can work, and it's feeder-based, feeder-based, feeder-based. That does not really provide to me as a student the answer to how do you move, how do you react, how do you make good decisions under spontaneous decision making under duress. How do you do that? And you got to show me how you move. Okay, without really thinking about this conversation with these guys. And I'm already anticipating they would say, I'm already old and I didn't have this, but I've been into 100 to 1,000, sparring and all this stuff. But man, darn it, I didn't video. Really? I mean, how old are you? 60, 70, 80? What about 10 years ago when you can move? Or 50 or 20 or 30 years ago? I already know that way back 90, there was already this huge, VHS and 8 millimeter, on before that, that's the super, okay, that must be so expensive. I understand. But now we're talking about 40 years ago. What about the 30, 20 years ago, 15, or even a 5 seconds? So they don't have anything.
Yeah.
Wow. Unbelievable. Okay. I'm going to go back to your question. You haven't seen me move, right? Did you?
No, and I'm sure there's video out there. I just haven't seen you move.
I was about to tell you, did you at least check me out? Because you should, because I'm in this right now in the interview.
Yeah,
my videos out there is unedited.
Yeah.
So if you check that Roger Agbulos, you would see that it's not edited, wherein it was just the best 2-3 seconds of. No, you'd see the full, and I go with the next one, complete until it ends. 2-3 minutes. FMA weapon-based fighting is not like 12 rounds boxing. You know this, right? So
Right.
It's like 1 minute, 2 minutes, or 3 minutes, and then the next one another 3 minutes, but spontaneous. And what we do is a different format from the other. It's not like they call it first blood, when you like taekwondo, when you got a touch, even a touch, you stop. Okay, decision. We don't do that. It's kind of like a boxing. It's the best of that particular 1, 2, or 3 minutes. But you have to respect the weapon. If you get hit, you can't go back with a revenge, with anger. Oh my gosh, I got hit. I'm going to go hit you back. I got here, so I'll hit you back. Because we have certain rules that applies to reality-based. Example, even if it's padded, what have you. If you get hit here, in reality, this would have been damaged or chopped.
Right.
So you kind of get that respect of a little pause, and then resume. And that pause doesn't need to be 5 seconds, 10 seconds, or 30 seconds, or 1 minute, sit down. No, sometimes it's a slight recognition, split second, so that you cannot just counter back because you got hit. If you want to counter, block, intercept, and go multiple. And that's the way to go. And it becomes very natural in the fighting, so that the adrenaline keeps going on, and the endurance management is still carried out. So it's kind of like a boxing match. Boxing bout, but with the respect of weaponry in a very, very big way. So anyway, so I do have my videos out there. So
yeah. No, I'll check them out. I'm just
teasing you, but
yeah, I know, but it's one of those where and I don't even know why I can't remember why that came up.
It's okay. It's a good question, because the people who follows you would probably have the same question. Who's Roger Agbulos?
Yeah.
If I have a seminar, and I actually start with generally speaking, I always have sparring in my seminar, because these guys has invested on their own journey of time, money, effort, and in the journey of learning, and their curiosity. So them being there and not knowing me, they want to kick my ass. But the thing is, I take this positively and constructively. They're not judging me for my personality, my character, my values, but for the skill that I am there, and they want to check me out,
right?
To see if what's being said of me, or what I said, or what's in the articles that is being out there on the social media, what have you, that I am able to kind of, be able to do the math of what I'm doing in actual practical purposes in real time, So to me, I don't get offense when they want to kick my ass, because if I get beaten up, and this is when I was still a student, right?
Yeah.
A long time ago. So we do a lot of sparring, but I tell this, and I even say that in my seminars: if you get beaten up, especially me, and I always say this: at least I'm one day better than I was yesterday. And the reason why I'm here and teaching you guys, because I have been struck, I have been beaten up more than all of you combined. I say that, and I say that, and I'm not embarrassed. But for me to be able to stand here and show you the geometry aspect, the science aspect of fighting, because I was able to do that, at least in the sparring aspect, is because of those two things. I'm not afraid to fail, to fall, because when I get up, I'm always one day better than I was yesterday. And for that when we fail, we learn, because that is the reality of how humans are. We learn from our mistakes, man, and that's how it is with Michael Jordan, with Wayne Gretzky, with Muhammad Ali, with Pacquiao, Mayweather, McGregor, all of these great sports athletes and combatants, right? They failed a lot in their training, in their journey. They went hungry, but they stuck it on, because that is the nature of what it is with human reality, man. When you fail, you learn. And so
Yeah.
I kind of have that in my seminars when I teach them. And you know what? The beautiful thing is that almost everybody, actually everybody, gets involved, because it's not about pain and all that stuff. I don't need to be lectured by pain, because pain is pain. I've been like broken fingers and busted kneecaps and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't need to be lectured about pain so that I would be a better in higher. No, it is
Right.
the avoidance of pain that is most important than the.
So one of my buddies, Harvey, he's up in the Seattle area, outside of the Seattle area. He's chiming in. He says, "You win or you learn."
Thanks,
Yeah.
Harvey. You know what? You're the one teaching me right now, man. Beautiful thing. So you see
Yeah.
how it is with the dynamics of when we are open-minded and putting the ego aside. Beautiful. Thank you, Harvey. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because you talk about people not knowing each other, or testing you. Like for me, I didn't know you. Now, like for me, even in the Kempo game, I don't know a lot of people. I don't go to a lot of seminars. I don't do, I kind of, not that I try and, stick to my own, but it's just, I just don't get out there. I don't meet a lot of people. I want to, it just never really had the money to be able to do it. And, talking with Bram, he just drops names left and right, and just kind of, you're like, and so when, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, I was talking to Roger and this and this and this and this." And I'm like, "Who is that?" And so,
Nobody.
yeah.
Nobody.
And so it's kind of funny because I'll sometimes have to stop and be like, "Okay, so you're going to have to use last names so I can do a little bit of research, or maybe, I've actually thought about just like, having a book with names and faces. So when he talks, I can just flip through. Oh, okay. That's who he's talking about. Yeah. But meeting you through him, I thought that, we've had conversations on the phone. You agreed to do this. I think you're a great guy. And that's one of the reasons I asked you on.
Thank you.
Just because I think you're such an interesting person, and I love your thought process of and I, even though you just said it and you've said it on the phone before, I can't. What is it? You're better today than you were yesterday.
Yeah, I said it a while ago too. If you get
Yeah,
up, you're always better, one day better than you were yesterday. So
one day better than you were yesterday. I like that.
yes, sir.
I like that. Let me write that down so I don't forget.
I'll send you my
No,
message.
I mean, I get the concept, but it's just the phrase, so.
Right. And so I will definitely make sure that what are the things that we covered, we will talk again, and we'll have this opportunity. Is that I would like, I'm not closing this. because we still have a long ways. There's
Oh, yeah.
still a lot to be discussed. But I would like to, for instance, especially the kind of martial arts that we chose to be. If we're talking about, say, weapon-based martial arts or combative slash self-defense, right? It is fun. It is high cardio, and it kind of keeps you fit, and and a lot of movements. It's kind of like tennis, but it's martial arts tennis because you got to move sideways, forward, and all that stuff. So I think the FMA. I don't even feel comfortable saying FMA because it's not about Filipino martial arts in general. It's about the weapons. I'd rather call it weapons based, weapon based, because it regardless whether it's FMA or the bad guy is gonna slash. Does it need to be defined whether it is Filipino, it is Thai, Vietnamese, or Japanese, or Hapkido based, or Aikido sword style of fight? No, he wouldn't even care. It doesn't even matter whether there is a numbering system of this strike. Is that strike number 1, strike number 6? It doesn't make sense how we are so into this, abecedario, or the fundamental basics of martial arts when we're talking about application-based martial arts. I think what should unify us is not the systems, the style, the tribal concept, because it can never get out of the human, as human beings. We can never get rid of that. There's always going to be bias and favoritism. As an example, even parents has favoritisms with their kids on decision makings and all the stuff. Even if they try to be subtle, but if you try to reflect that in yourself within, there is that bias. So, you know what? It will always be there because we are just humans. But I'll tell you this: we cannot be totally united in that aspect of tribal concept, right? This is me, this is yours. I don't care. This is better. No. That's fine. But we got to take it on a different level, or a different category. And this is what I think, my 2 cents, is that we should look at it on the science aspect, because the science is what unites us, because it's all applications based. Example, the universal elements of fighting science to be able to be the one man standing are 3 simple things. Not necessarily these are the only things, but in general, 3 simple things. You got to be a great command of balance. Balance is through motion of offense and defense, not just static, right? Because
Right.
Combatives, even in the different forms of life kingdoms, even ants, even insects, praying mantis, and then with tigers, lions, cobras, and all that stuff, and then human beings too. We fight with movement. It's not static. Ready? Okay. Kata 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 kata. Oh, this is a close quarter, and this is like in different stuff. That is not true, because in reality, if we even see, because the videos are out there too, or maybe in your circle of very high, what do you call this, when they don't spread it out because it's too violent. But anyway, what I'm saying is that there are videos out there of guys in reality of killing each other, doing machete, sword, knife, and all the stuff. You know what? The fighting is different. It's moving, man. It's moving. So you cannot really go for static, because if it is static, it can be one element in the totality of understanding martial arts, because it could be a closing technique in again in the total performance. But all of this, it's a dynamic movement of between 2 non-compliant combatants. So when I'm going to go back to my selection of the science aspect of martial arts, it's balance in movement of offense defense. It is,
Right.
and I have an acronym, BEN. B is the other base foundation that supports the balance. It is economy of motion. So when you move, it has to be based on efficiency, because if you move wide, then your geometry of point A to point B is much longer. Therefore, it takes more energy and the other would be able to kind of attack you more efficiently because of your geometric, advantage and disadvantage. So that's just an example, but economy of motion equates to efficiency. So where you end is also where your point of strength as well. So you don't have to redirect always with this, right? In fact, this is normal in street fight. This is the recoil. When very simple. If we can even learn from Three Stooges, right? With this one, poke. That is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Go respond. If your life is threatened, go respond, attacking pressure points or critical targets, because it does not require a lot of force. So we should put in the balance, the science of balance with the movement, footwork, etc., etc. Balance with economy of motion equates to non-tele or efficiency. And the other one that supports all these two, which these two can't go without this other one, is called I call it is the N part, BEN. N stands for non-telegraphic. If you're showing because of your recoils and all the stuff, and I mean, man, from a mile away, I know what you're gonna do. You lose the element of surprise.
Yeah.
So if we put this all together, man, what a beautiful thing that we're learning, because now we're actually not, I'm going to go back to FMA, not the tribal FMA in general. What we're done with that, or not even martial arts in general. Now we are into the applied martial arts, applied MA, applied FMA. So when we're talking about in science, that we have engineering and applied engineering, right?
Right.
So we should be united in the applied science of martial arts, or better yet, very specifically, because I'm not into the sports. It's combatives, but applied combatives is the key, because applied combatives, even in the sparring, in the fighting aspect, is a science on its own. If you are drill-based, it's not complete without the understanding of applied science. That's why the question is, how is your footwork when it comes to between two non-combatants and under duress? That footwork doesn't work if you don't understand the mechanics of it. That's why also with the footwork and also with the movement of strikes has to be backed up by internalization of your conditioning. And what do you call that? Plyometrics. It's the development of speed, power, conditioning, strength, accuracy, blah, 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 etc., etc. That's why the elite athletes competing in the professional level moves differently from the average people. Why? Because of the plyometrics. And we should apply that in our selection of the martial arts we choose. There should be plyometrics, because that internalization is something that will help you propel your performance, because the body becomes molded to that specific objectivity of that purpose. Speed, power, conditioning, blah, 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 is plyometrics. So if I'm going to go flex, right? Who's your daddy flexing, right? I'm not saying that with a big head. I'm saying because this is for a purpose. This is for small moves with explosiveness and power, because I would want to be able to explain and demonstrate in real time without simply just restricting myself to the feeder base. Okay, strike me. That's not the way. That's not the way to go. Okay, let's part and let's see how this of what I believe works in real time. Because in fighting, you have to take into account, it is like chess in real time. There's a lot of elements. They have to think 2 and 3, 4 moves ahead, because there's also what involves in the fighting is not just impact force on force, but rather there's psychology, behavior, because there is setup, there is layering and all that stuff. So what a beautiful thing we do, huh? I mean, I can go on and on here. But the thing about this is there's just too much talk in martial arts, It's in the movement, man. It's in the movement. So you should, our selection of our training should be based on the applied combatives or applied sparring. Not talk and drill base and I feed you here, because there are always in between, again, as a fight. And even if we're just talking about sparring, it is based on two non-compliant combatives,
Right.
combatants.
Well, you've mentioned, the earlier you had talked about uh, tribal and secrets, and I don't think that that's just in FMA.
Yeah, that's true.
That's all over the place.
Exactly.
That's I hosted Mark Klein out here. Oh shoot, it was years and years ago, but I did. I had come up with an idea of, like you had George Dillman and Wally J and Remy Priestis, and they were out doing the big 3 seminars. And so since I had since locally we had Dan Anderson and Stan Miller, we had Small Circle and we had Modern Arnis, and then brought Mark out, and we did a next 3 because of course they're students of them, and it's the next 3.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a group out of, I want to say McMinnville, which is roughly about an hour south of where I am, south-ish. But they had come, and they were actually part of a group that their chief instructor would not let them go to outside seminars.
All right.
And I remember I even went to when I was promoting Mark for the first time, when he was his first seminar that I promoted for him. I went to a school up here in Vancouver, and went off to, I was handing out flyers, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, no, we're not. Our Grandmaster doesn't let us go to outside things, because they want their own little secrets, and they don't want to." I don't know why that is. I can only speculate. In talking with the people that had come to the next 3 seminar, we've actually become friends because they left their group, but it was one of those where it was like they felt that if they learned something outside the group, then they would know that what he was teaching was BS. At least that's my perspective on it. So it's like, you stick with me, you're going to learn all the secrets, don't go outside. And then of course you get those, the people, who want to learn. And it's like, well, you're not part of my group, so I'm not going to teach you my secrets. But I think that's everywhere. I mean, it's Kempo.
So true.
But when it really comes down to it, when you look at movement, like you were talking about, the science of it, all the systems have the same core movements.
In a way, but
for the most part.
For the most part, but maybe we should kind of, in my expression, this is how I see this.
Okay.
The science is science, be it depending, because there's just too many elements in the science that would kind of make it very, very complicated, because anybody's point of view is valid. But I choose the simplistic approach to what gives me the highest ratio of success in performance. So therefore, I ask myself about those things. Balance, is it good balance? I can move all the stuff. Is it efficient? It's non-telegraphic. So therefore, I also have something that I use as a yardstick before I choose a certain methodology. So it's a question of methodology. The system itself, the martial arts discipline itself, has given us all the beautiful things that we need to learn. So it has its merits. All of them has merits.
Right.
But it's a question of methodology, because it's the methodology is what translates to application base. It what makes you in your movement, methodology. So if we're gonna look at it in this manner, those secrets and all that stuff, that's so true in so many. In fact, a big percentage of different martial arts and system. But this is how I see it. If we look at the big arenas of fights, UFC, K1, One Championship, Pride, karate, full contact matches, even kendo, jujitsu, and all the stuff. So if you look at these big arenas, you know what, these successful camps that would pay a fight 30 million, 40 million dollars for one guy to pay him, is that all of these guys, huh, they go about studying their opponents in how they move, in how they fight, and they reverse engineer this, and they base their training on how they will best, be able to counter and respond beautifully, scientifically, or what have you, in the correct response in their conditioning. So they reverse engineer their training so that they will stand the best chance of winning. So it's again between two non-compliant combatants. And what it is with I'm just gonna go about FMA, because then I probably would be more respectful, because that's where I came from, rather than talking about the different style. With FMA, it's too much of a secret, man. There's no, I can't show, because no, we can't. So we don't learn from each other. We can put it up a notch to understand and embrace science, to reverse engineer. What we're hanging into, this is a secret of my master and my grandmaster before this and all that stuff. It's all talk. But then when it comes to show me how you move, I wouldn't do that, because that's not respectful. But in my head, I have the same question as you asked me directly. I haven't seen you move, Roger. You know what? I do the same thing, questions of those guys. So how are we going to reverse injury and put this much more on a higher level of understanding in the applied science journey aspect of Filipino martial arts? We can't, because we're all about, no, I can't show this. This is a secret, and there's only I'd rather watch SpongeBob at home, because then I enjoy entertainment, and it's actually more violent than than FMA, because you can see the actual movement of these guys. It's all about, if I drill. It's drill based. Everybody has drill based. Even the non-martial artists, when you drill them, they are able to perform kind of like in the elite level. Because why? Because it's not between two non-compliant combatants. And I'll tell you specifically who are these people. Actors. Because it's a drill, and it's choreography. Then when you watch a big screen, wow, my idol. Avengers, right? When they fight, like, wow, even without the special stuff. But all of this martial arts, these actors, good looking, physique, but they're not martial artists, but they were able to perform because it's drill. They will drill this over, okay, for a better word, choreograph. They will choreograph this.
Right.
But that is not an indication that is only one segment in the journey of martial arts. The big aspect that you're missing is testing it out in real time. I repeat this over and over, because I can't get away with this, and neither can we, all of us. Is the real essence of movement is between non-compliant combatants under duress. So you're right. I'm just supporting what you're saying, with all the other systems being like that, with secret this, secret that. Who cares? Besides, I don't listen to them anymore. There is nothing that has not been said, or has not been read, or has not been demonstrated in the videos out there, in articles, magazines, blogs, Facebook, social medias, even Instagram, and all. So it's all in there. So what people would be saying, if I'm listening, is nothing that I haven't heard for. And I will further prove this. When we watch these big fights, right, in MGM in Las Vegas, and the fight of the century, blah blah blah. During breaks, when they have these cameras being panned into the corner, the coach would say, "You should do this." And you know what? When you're trying to see and listen to what the coach is saying to the fighter, and these are big time fighters, and it goes with everybody that went for live TV. There is nothing that the coach have said that we haven't heard before. No, it's not. But it is at that moment that it's important that you are guided accordingly to the best strategy at that moment in time. So, what are we talking about here? We should be open into, studying among ourselves in how we perform in real time. and then we reverse engineer. So I don't want to sound like arrogant or broken record, but to me, I don't really care about the patterns in any systems that will, you can learn from. The important question to address here: does it make it in real time? Are you able to pull it off? Because if you can't, it just defeats the purpose of practical, selections or applications, because there are so many options out there. In martial arts, they would say, it seems to be in the machismo of martial arts, when they say, yeah, I'm in this style. Yeah, I've been doing it 30 years, 40 years. You know what? If you get into this level, you got to learn more. 20 years, 30. You know what's saying? That's a very complicated art. I don't want that. I don't want that, because it's a waste of time. It has to be simplistic. Yeah. And of course, it answers the questions that I out there. The balance, kind of emotion, and mental graphic. Actually, I have another acronym that I use a lot in the selection of techniques that I practice, then I condition myself. It must satisfy all this condition. It's a letter F, so it has functionality. Functionality could be, is it able to deflect, a strike on me, or I stab, should I be deflect, or am I able to save somebody's life because of there's functionality of my choosing in this technique. So if it satisfies that condition, then it's a check mark. Functionality, sure, it saved your life, or you deflected, or so there you go. Check functionality. The second one is U. It is universally simplistic, because if it's simplistic to me, it's simplistic to you, to this teenager, to this adult female, or to a certain extent even seniors, then it satisfies that condition. Because like I said a while ago, if this particular technique is roundhouse kick 10 feet high, I'm not able to do that.
Right.
There's nothing in this lifetime that I can do that. I didn't start when I was young. I can't do that, because also there is so many selections that you can do out of that very, very difficult move. And it's the same with even patterns of fighting movements with weaponry. It's the same. And it's the same also with some other styles, right? Empty hands or all this stuff. So functionality, universally simplistic. The next acronym, the letter is C. Can it work in real time? There's no. Can it work in real time? Because if it can't work in real time, it's only like feeder based. I do this. That's compliance, But in real time, can you be able to really, block in like split second, 1,000, whatever is that description of speed, power, conditioning, under duress, spontaneous, all that stuff? Can it work in real time? If it doesn't, I'll throw it away. Why? Because there's still other options. Even an eye gouge is an option, right?
Right.
So the last letter, because we got functionality, universally simplistic, can work in real time, and there's the letter K, and there's no cursing here. Okay, so it's the K stands for consistency. It has to be consistent, even different situations. And you know what? It cannot be only consistent in the reality of feeder base in a studio, in a martial arts gym, because in the street, the bad guy does not respect you, will take you out.
Yeah.
So that consistency has to be taken in almost any situation. Not exactly all, because if we're talking about, don't take me literally, this cannot be done underwater, So it has to be all these elements that is my basis for a technique selection. And if it satisfies that, so I am all for it. If you can work in real time and consistency without the cursing.
Yeah, well, no, that kind of goes along the lines of secret hidden instructor techniques.
Man, woo. And you know what? I'll be respectful and I'll be courteous, but there's life. We always say this: life is short, man. There's no such thing as a cat with 9 lives. That I'll be better next life, or I'll be able to express
Right.
myself in the next. There's no such thing, man. So if you choose this journey of learning, maybe, you know, keep an open mind, and don't be afraid to kind of look for the truth. But you got to define your definition.
Right.
And the politics discussion is sometimes just too much of negativity. It could be good, sure, but again, to me, the basis should be. Thank you, Harvey.
Yeah.
Love you,
We
man.
love your
Appreciate
philosophy.
it, brother. But
Yeah.
the basis of this should be in the movement aspect. In the science of like manufacturing, and I've had the opportunity to work with aerospace. So they have these simple things that actually is very, very helpful, even in the context of say the martial arts science, because it's still science.
Yeah.
So it is very, very helpful, not only in aerospace, because it would save a lot of lives. And like for instance, in the science of aviation, where in a million flights, how much is the percentage of a crash? It is very nil. It is the car crash is more than 10 times, 100 times more than an airline, because they have perfected this science, and it's about like through failure that they learn from each other. And when a plane crash, everybody gets involved, the different departments and all this stuff, and they study that, and they go with it and fixing it up. That is what they call the black box mentality. In fact, there's a beautiful book out there that you can read about this, and it will change your mindset. It will make you a better person in your understanding of life, and even in the science of martial arts. So it is through failure that you learn and fix this. And that is the problem with some systems not testing themselves and learning and understanding the weaknesses of what they overly emphasize. So that is also why am I, if I may, I'm going to make my 2 cents here. Why am I
Yeah.
good in what I do? At least when I say this, I'm good in what I do. I'm not saying I'm the best. No, there's a difference. In what I teach, I'm good in what I do. So what is it that makes me good in what I do? Because I am into the different styles, understanding of people who wants to kick my ass from different perspectives. So I am open more to the adaptation of, and that is also one of the techniques of learning, is random, because if you are feeder based, you are set in that particular movement. So it's kind of depressing and confusing when it comes to fighting. It does not appear to be in that environment, because again, there's a different. What if the guy is left-handed? What if the guy does a lot of engaño, meaning feint? What if guy does the attack rather than the feeder base? So that is another aspect of a technique that is very, very effective. If you are also do the applied science of fighting, but with different styles, because that's how it is. And thank you, Harvey. I can't stop reading about. I'm loving your philosophy. Believe me, I'm not like this, but I'm given this opportunity. What a blessing! Thank you, Mish.
Yeah.
But I don't go out there and preaching. I don't. But if you're talking about what is it that I love, man, you're gonna have blood coming out from your ears. Oh, before I forget, why am I talking about aviation and all this stuff, right? Because there are discipline that they use in the process of the thinking, right? It made them really better, even in the medical aspect, uh, like surgical, instruments, because the tolerance is almost unrecognizable. It can't be seen by the eyes if they are to fix, defects. It cannot be. It's under microscopic tolerance, so that it's the perfection of in the art of flying, or in the instruments of like operating your heart. So it is like, for instance, when they have a fault, they look at it with objective evidence, not emotional, not cultural, not style, not what your interpretation. No, it's objective evidence. And they also go through the science of it by they call it the root cause analysis. The root cause analysis also weeds out all this emotional content. It's the right brainer. Is that what it is? When it's rational, objective, the science measurement and all this stuff. and all the stuff. So you learn a lot of these things, man. It's a lot of beautiful concepts in the aspect of application base. And what's the other thing that I actually embrace as well in my mentality of my choice is the OODA loop, right? OODA loop.
Yeah.
Observe, orient, decide, and act. Very simple. So if I have some combinations that you haven't seen, I'm always against ahead of you in the OODA loop. That's why you are confused of what I do. And I just had this. I just attended a sparring. They call it barbecue sparring because the format is kind of open-minded without like the formalities of first next fighter. And these are the rules. Time wave. No, no, it's just an open barbecue. Everybody's kind of have their own little tents and they're socialized. So if you want to spar here, there's sparring there, there's chatting here. So it's very informal. So it's more conducive to openness rather than competition. So I participated in that event last Sunday. And this was hosted by Steve Del Castillo, who is also a big FMA enthusiast and fighter base, you know. So anyway, I was invited, so I went there. And there's so many styles, so many. You can name it, they're all in there. It is out in Southern California, you know, it's an hour away from me, so I went there. So I was watching them spar. So I participated because I have to, at least when I saw them different styles fights, I said, maybe I can contribute to something. So before I get into, I told them before I get into the strategies of fights and what you can improve on, I want you guys to see me. So I sparred with these different systems, man, different representatives. And you know what? And I'm not saying this with a big head, but let's look at it on the science. If your approach is embracing the science, you're gonna go damage, confuse them. You're gonna go, if I may, beat their ass because it's the science. It's no longer about system and style, but it's about interception, you know, economy, motion, and half beats and rhythms and cadence and all that stuff. And I was explaining to them. I said that has to be in your design. You are not able to intercept me because it was never in your design to begin with. How do you go about with your footwork? And their footwork is never on the offense. You know, I can break it apart. But the thing is, and that kind of blew them away. In my perception, maybe in the other's perception, they don't care. So,
right.
Because I was going through it, I owned them in the first 1, 2, 3 minutes. Of course, it gets hit because it's you have to also force them. So when I force them, I get hit. So and I explained why it gets hit because of my not, you know, being objective with my positioning, and so it's I'm giving them something so they can learn from this aspect of right. So but totally, I said, why did you get hit? Because it was never in your design of your strategy. So I think it was very productive with that gathering, and they're looking at going to do this again. 1 or 2 more times here in South Cab. So I was good. So I was able to explain myself maybe. But in fact, some have already connected with me and asking for sessions in private and all this stuff. But I got to be careful with this too because there's also the protocol, right? Of at least let your master know. Your master actually, they're all friends of mine. At least give them the courtesy, and that's it, just courtesy, you know. But it was a very joyful experience to be able to perform very well, and not because of the egos with the tribal concept of this is mine, this is yours. No, but with the science. But these guys might be thinking that I spar a lot. No, it's been with a pandemic for a year and more than a year, right? That we haven't sparred, we haven't seen, we haven't. I only started teaching about 2 weeks ago with my people coming in. But did I spar? Of course not. But it is also important to understand that it's the attribute development that you continually do in your workouts so that the body is molded for that particular performance. So it's by design. So it's methodology. So when we're talking about this is not like kettlebell. Because I don't fight like that, you know. I don't fight like this. I don't fight, but it is based on specific tools that I use, and then based on the design of explosiveness in small moves, and then based on impact. So you get used to that, so you can react upon impact and not get shot. And then what you're gonna do, right? So all these things. So I was sharing all of those things during that time last Sunday. They call it the barbecue spars. So a lot of people actually have more of the title of Grandmaster in the barbecue itself when it comes to eating, and I'm actually also maybe have a high ranking in the aspect of, they call it Grandmaster in buffet doru. So there is that I have. Although I don't really have a tummy, but I beat my student. Who's been with me for 8 years. His name is Jamie. I love him. He's big guy. He's big, huge guy, man. He's 6 foot or even taller, and he's big size. But I'm teaching him the science, right? So all this stuff. But you know what? I beat him in a buffet by 4 plates. It's not that because it's competition. I was just enjoying my food, and it's about pacing, It's all that stuff. So anyway, I have a high ranking in buffet doru. So there you go. So anyway, where's Harvey? Any more? Hey Harvey, are you gonna say something? It's been quiet in there. It's been just one guy talking.
I don't know, Harvey. Are you still there?
Anyway, yeah.
We do have one person watching. It could be him.
All right, so there you go. Because I have one. We have one audience.
We got one live one.
Okay, good.
It all depends. Sometimes I get some live. Oh, he's still here. Right on. Yeah. Sometimes I get a couple live ones. That's actually, I changed it to noon. That's actually one of the reasons I changed the time to noon, so I could get more people watching, because I found a lot of people, like even with Dan Anderson, he teaches in the morning. I've started teaching in the morning. So this is one of those things where, hoping to get more people in, but it is 3:00 on the East Coast.
All right.
So I don't know what the Eastern Coast people are doing. So, so I do want to give you credit here. I don't think you get enough credit. You've done, you've done some artwork for Bram. You did,
Yes.
You've done some posters for him. We actually kind of combined it all for the group. You did this one. This is actually for Bram's Bolo Camp.
Yes, sir.
It's coming up next month. And so, because I think you're such a great artist, I was like, hey, Roger, can you do this? And you were like, sure, send me some pictures. So, this is our main concept that you did for us. And then, doing everything else. I think that's, how did you get into that? Is that just something like just a natural artist in you, martial and graphic, or what do you?
Well, when I was back in the Philippines, I actually had a chance to work in a international advertising agency. So not as a graphic or not as an artist, but being involved in the industry, kind of got me into this understanding of creativity. And when it's a video, it's no dull moment, because you have to sustain awareness, be it in a commercial, when it's the TV, the airwaves is filled up with all this competing advertising that nobody wants to watch, and it's very annoying. So you got to have some techniques of sustaining audience interest by standing out from the clutter, or maybe learning also from the print arts of not overly special effects, and there has to be a story behind this combination of techniques, making contrast, lighting and all the stuff, and the balance of fonts and all the stuff. So and as you go to, like, on almost any activity, as you use it, as you practice it, you get better. So I'm just probably doing it a lot more than, well, I'm not professional. I'm doing it a lot more than the ordinary guy that does their own flyer. So I got better. So I'm not a professional artist graphic, but I enjoy doing this. I actually, all my flyers, most of all my flyers, I did it. So
Right on. I mean, for me, I do all my own stuff just because I don't have the money to pay somebody.
There you go.
So
Same reason. You know what? You said you haven't seen my moves, so I put on your Facebook Messenger of some alive sparring that I did. I don't know if you're
I saw those. I saw them pop up. I'll watch them. I'll
right.
watch them.
I don't know if you can share that here, but would MP4? It's an MP4, so should I send it via email so you can download or?
let me see. Let me check out.
Likewise, Harvey, I do hope one day that we cross paths because if it's in your bliss, it is also in my bliss. So one day
Yeah,
maybe, you know,
I'm
Harvey
glad you
would say,
saw that.
man.
I didn't see that pop up until you were talking about your graphic arts, but let me. I don't know why that's not. Oh, there we go. No. What? I lost him. Where did you go though? I can, but the video went away. That's so weird. Hmm. Yeah. Right on. Yeah, I don't know where you went. I can totally hear you, but I don't I you disappeared from the stream. Um, let me see. Let's see. Let me um hmm, trying to Ooh, wait a minute. Wait. Maybe I can. All right. Let's see. Share. Okay. Oh. For some okay. Oh, actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna bring that. Oh, now I can see it. Okay. And then I'm gonna get rid of that, remove, bring this up so I can actually do it. Oh, you sent me a lot. Okay. Um Let me try this again. Screen share. Why did that go away? Okay. Oh, I see why I did that. Let's try this again. Oh, there we go. That's what I wanted. All right. All right. Okay. So we'll make that big. And then we'll do this. Cool. Oh, really? All right. Yeah. Is that the same guy or a different guy? Okay. Nice. Let's see if that's. Let's see. All right. Well, the problem is that I don't see your. Let's. I don't see your video down here at the bottom. So that's weird. For some reason, you just disappeared. I don't know. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Yes, sir.
Right on.
10-4.
Did you have what did you have your browser minimized? Is that what it was?
No.
Oh,
Actually, this is what I noticed. So when you went to showing some other, so it could be done with any interview, right? Showing coming from your folder or video. The camera selection from from my interface kind of gets to gray because you're showing a footage.
Oh.
So now that you're done, I think because I just gave a random, it's still gray. That's why if we're done, I should have I could click. I click the camera icon, so it got back. And this I'll show you. See this?
Yeah.
This is the camera icon. It's so bright, but I just click it and then it went back. So
okay, cool.
All right, FYI. So all this, all this, my library. This is a partial. I got my library. It's into science. A lot of things. Martial arts, and I've been a big fan of some of these different, sample. Fighting science, combat strategy.
Actually, I think I actually have that fighting science book.
On
Killing. It's one of the best books.
Yes,
everyone should read that book.
Even if it's 6 DVD or 12 DVDs of Lieutenant Grossman. SAS, man, Special Forces, and then of course the understanding of in the street fighting of psychology. So it's meditations and other stuff.
So Rory Miller
Yeah.
is fabulous. He actually lives more than a stone throw away from me, but I read that book, Meditations, and then he's got several books, but the second book he read, Facing Violence. I think that was, I actually make that's a required read for my students, is Facing Violence. But yeah, Rory's pretty cool. I actually kind of stalked him a little bit to in becoming his friend. So,
this book signed by him. See.
Yep. Yeah. Rory's good people.
Good guy. I'm not into, I kind of cover different subjects that would help me be a better person, a better student in the understanding of applied base, right? So even the subject of timing is itself a world on its own. So it's a beautiful thing that when we open ourselves into these subjects, right? Then we become better. But how it is with the others, like I'm a grandmaster, even without saying, but like the attitude of secret and no, man. So we learn better if we get into this. So
yeah. No, I the closest martial arts book that I have near me is this one.
I love it, man. Oh man. Wow.
No, these guys are awesome. They actually they like the standard karate chop. Like it's pretty funny.
I love it. I love it. Nice.
No, every time Dan comes over to my place, he doesn't come over to my place a lot, but he always looks at my library of books. I think the first time he came over, he kind of looked through it. He goes, "You can tell a lot about a person from their library."
Well, you can tell more about myself when you look at the other aspect of my library, which is this. They see the books and look at my see. Those are my heroes. So there you go. There's the lighter side of me.
Right on.
So anyway. All right. So we're about to.
Yeah, we're getting up there. So I know we kind of put a time limit on this because you've got a class in about a half hour.
Yes.
So are you taking students?
I have my Zoom class since March of last year. So
Yeah.
these guys have have followed me. Not exactly everybody started with March of last year, but at least for most of these guys who have already have sessions with me for months now, kind of know about the concept and the philosophy. So if I take students, yes, I do. To answer your question, yes, I do, but not in this specific Zoom because they will have a little bit of there's the complexity of getting, so you must have an understanding of what we're talking about because it is based on those concepts and principles that we follow, and we do that in that methodology. Example, those FU, and then
Right.
the VEN and all that stuff. So, but yes, I do. I think what's important is everybody thinks that their martial arts has to stop because of this pandemic thing. I will tell you, for what I'm able to execute and demonstrate and articulate proficiently is because the product of my solo training, which is based on probably 80-90% of my effort. But then again, I would say for what I'm able still to articulate right now, when we're just starting to open after more than a year under the pandemic situation, I have not even, work out with people exchanging energy and all the stuff for all this more than a year. Did I lose my? I don't think so, but it needs some brushing up, but just a little bit because I started teaching again about 2 weeks ago, and I performed in those sparring matches. Woo, at least I can say I earned this because
Yeah.
of solo training, attribute development. So don't take this for granted because all of this is the methodology is what makes you, what molds you to be able to perform, things that you don't even think that you can perform will come out when your design, it is deliberate design. So when your plyometrics backs you up, because then the body supports that speed, power, conditioning, accuracy, and all that stuff, etc., etc. So that's my spiel.
Right on. How would well, for locals, you'd be able to do well. You could do privates over Zoom, right?
Oh yes, yeah. So let me connect what I said. The attribute development is actually what you can get out of a Zoom. It's
Right.
not because the absence of me in there in the same room. I am the product of attribute development solo training. So me as a coach to guide you in how you would condition yourself in the right manner is one of the most effective way of propelling, all of this that you need in the performance of spar base, speed, power, conditioning, and that's actually is what I do in my Zoom. It is it doesn't need that I am exchanging with them, but I'm moving and I'm teaching them, I'm telling them using the right tools and the elements to build the muscle and the movement of the fighting and all the stuff. But it's really plyometrics at its best in the context of weapons combatives. So
Right on. Okay. Well, how would somebody get a hold of you if they wanted to train with you?
I think the best is Roger Agbulos Facebook. They can you know, they
Okay.
can hook up with me. And
Right on.
if I don't try to sell myself. I'm not into that. But it's best that at least maybe we start as a friend. No obligations. No. So it's much it's a simpler way to start because I'm not for everybody. I kind of have a different mindset, which
Right.
the others might want just to take kettlebell or what have you, and that I still have the absolute respect for whatever is your choice. But if this is something for you, I think you need to understand more when we talk and all this stuff. If this is for you, well, to me, this is a blessing because it's a joy, to have somebody with my journey. So, and then after Facebook, if you want to, with anybody wants to pursue more, I would actually, would get to the next step of talking, even by messenger, by phone, to get to understand, and then try it out on the video,
Okay.
on the movement. so that they get to understand my mindset, and so it's
Okay.
clear on the expectation.
Right on. Well, I'll put that. I'll put a link to your Facebook page in the description. So if anybody wants to reach out, they can do that.
All right.
So
Sounds good.
right on. All right, sir. Well, it has been a pleasure. I've loved our chat.
Likewise.
I mean, we've chatted before on the phone, but I've gotten to know a little bit more about you here. I think that's great.
Thank you, sir.
Harvey enjoyed it. Yeah, Harvey's a good guy. I hope that sometime that you guys can connect.
Thank you, Harvey. Feel free.
Yeah.
No worries.
All right. And for anyone else who has watched while we're offline, I hope you enjoyed it. If you have hung out this long and you have not subscribed, shared, liked, all those really cool social media things, please do so. And we're out.
Right on. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. And thank you